Welcome to the Bait and Banner Podcast, the ultimate show for everyday anglers and outdoor enthusiasts. Dive into a sea of stories, tips, and tricks as we explore the diverse fishing scenes of the Pacific Northwest. Join us and fellow anglers to share, learn, and laugh. The Bait and Banter Podcast is your hook into the world of fishing and outdoor adventures.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bait and Banner Podcast. Today, I have angler Kei Vang with me. He's a Southern California kayak angler. He helps heads up the Fresh and Salty Facebook page. And if you guys have been paying attention to that or seen some of the other stuff online, he just recently, here a few weeks ago, was out, pedaled himself 10 miles offshore, and then managed to hook a marlin off the California coast. Keith, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Jim, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be a part of your podcast.
I'm glad that I'm super stoked to have you on. Super stoked to have you on. And how often do you guys go out there to do this 10-mile offshore thing?
Well, this is actually my fourth year going out there. Every August it's always been the sweet month, for that area. So this started back in 2021. One of my buddies, name is Bill Morales, he went out there and pedaled around in his Hobie kayak, and he caught a tuna. He hit me up, and then the next day I rounded up a couple guys, right? And then we went out there. Sure enough, we got out there about like 8:30, and we ran into tuna. So
Wow.
Ever since then, we've been going every August.
So are you getting like bluefin? What are they, yellowfin? What are you getting? What kind of tuna?
Oh, there's bluefin tuna out there.
Wow.
Sometimes the yellowfin come in too, but we haven't seen any yet. So it's so far been bluefin.
How big are they? Is it the same size as what you're seeing on the charter guys on the charter boats that go out for 3 days?
Yeah, it can range from anywhere from 20 pounds to a couple hundred pounds. It all depends on what size school or what school you run into.
Have you guys seen any big ones like the 200 pounders?
Not yet. I mean, we've seen like 70, 80 pound. A lot of boaters report they seen 120 pound. Jumping here and there. But the one that my buddy Bill Morales got, it was about like a 70 pound.
Super tussle on the kayak, huh?
Yeah, and then all the one that we caught, the day after was like 30, 35 pounds. It's nothing big, but it's still it's hard to get on the coast of California.
Yeah, and that's the top of the line, or the top of the pile for the tunas, man. That's the top grade stuff. So
yeah,
all we get up here is albacore. They do not get within 10 miles of the shore. They're 50 miles, 60 miles offshore. Sometimes they'll come within 20 or 30, not very often. But I was in Hawaii here back in March, and we caught a bunch of big eye tuna. And when we got back to the dock, the guys there were like, "Holy cow, where'd you guys get those?" And we were, they were just out there. We went about 15 miles offshore to one of the FAD buoys. And so what I didn't realize was there's a hierarchy basically of quality for tuna. It goes bonito, which they said was good for dog food. And then there's albacore, which they said was good for smoking and dog food. And then there was the yellowfin, which was good for barbecue or smoking. And then there was the big eye, which was supposed to be good for barbecue and smoking, and had some dollar signs by it because it was valuable. And then there was the bluefin, which had gobs of dollar signs, good for anything, basically, any kind of sushi, all that stuff. So I knew the bluefin was went for, but I didn't realize just how valuable, or I guess that they are, and especially to get them here close to. I didn't know they were in California. I just figured they were, some other warm water state. When you guys are looking for them, like you said, your buddy went out there. What do you do? Was he just looking at like the current temperatures and decided, hey, I can get to the 60 degrees, or you guys got warm water down there. What is the temperature? 70?
Yeah, so when you go out there, you want to look for like warm water, anything above 70,
right?
74, something like that, And sometimes, you don't really have to wait for the fish report, you just go out there and you get lucky, because most of the time if you wait for the report to go out there, it's too late already,
Right. That's the same thing here. They're looking for temperatures between 60 and 65 to go get to the albacore. So, and you can see all that on the internet. It's all pretty neat stuff. So he goes out there. He just decides to pedal out there. Did he go on his own?
Yeah, he goes alone.
Wow.
Yeah, he goes alone. He's actually he's been kayaking for a very long time, so he catch some big fish too.
Is he a paddler or a peddler?
He's a pedal. He got a Hobie.
Does he got a Hobie? There's a guy that my buddy Brad Hull has a friend named Todd. Can't remember his last name. Anyways, he has a big sea kayak, and that guy will do the same kind of thing. He'll put in up here, like say at Nia Bay, and
Mm-hmm.
Brad's told me that the guy used to pedal out 12, 13, 14 miles to go halibut fishing in a sea
Mm-hmm.
kayak and then trying to come all the way back. And I mean, that's granted, those sea kayaks go pretty fast, but still the currents and, like we were talking about the wind, and his is a sit in, he's got a skirt. So, but that stuff's always pretty interesting. How long does it take you guys to get out there?
From the harbor going out to where the general area where I usually go look for the bluefin and Dorados and whatever is out there. It's about 6 miles, 6.5, right around there. So it's about like a 3 mile, a 2.5, 3 hour pedal to get out there. Yeah, depending on condition.
Right. And you guys are doing what, 2.5 or so?
Yeah, we're just, I mean, just cruising out there. You don't have to, race anything or anything like that.
Now, when you get out there, are you catching bait? Are you taking bait with you? Are you getting out there and like running sabiki rigs?
Well, before we leave the harbor, they got a bait barge, right? So we just buy the bait from there. It's like $20 for a scoop, kayak scoop. That's more than enough. You're getting like 40 sardines. So it saves you all the time trying to catch bait. Just buy it and get out there. So
Right.
it's pretty easy.
How are you transporting them? Are you doing like the guys in Hawaii? You'll do, they have the piece of pipe, stick them in there and drag it behind them, or you got a live well?
No, we all got light well now. We all got the Hobie V2. I think that's one of the best one on the market right now. For what we're using all along the coast of California for live bait. It's a battery powered. But they got the tube that goes under the scupper hole that when you pedal, it suck up the water, so the water constantly rotating.
Oh, so it's actually pulling water from the ocean and then pulling it back out. We can't use live bait here for anything, but
Oh yeah.
well, on the salt we can. I shouldn't say that. I'm up in
Mm.
the freshwater we can't, but in the salt we can. You can buy bait. Guys that go out albacore fishing, they'll buy bunches of
Mm.
bait. They'll get sardines. Mostly people here just troll for them using cigar plugs and different things. Nothing huge. I've got to do it a couple of times, and it's a blast. This last trip, how long ago was it?
It was just August 3rd.
Literally a few days ago.
Yeah, that's last week. It's last Saturday.
You guys were headed out, and you managed to get out there, and you got into a marlin out there. Tell us about that.
Our original plan was to go look for tuna. Because there was report that bluefin was in the area, not too far out. People were seeing them like 3-4 miles out, right? So I figured that I'm just gonna go back to the same spot that I've been going there for the past 3 years now. So this year is actually my fourth year going there. We made it out there, so we pedaled about maybe I say up close to 2 hours before we decided to drop our bait, because that's when we get to the canyon. Over at Dana Point, there's an area that it's a drop off. It goes from 300 feet all the way to like 1,700 feet within like maybe a quarter mile. So once we get to the canyon, that's when we let the bait out and just start pedaling out there, trolling.
Do you have a bait while you're going out there, or no?
No, we don't. We usually wait until we get out to the canyon before we drop the bait. That's where the water get warmer. It's more activity out there.
You're literally fishing a canyon. Then there's no underwater hump that's down 200 or 300 feet.
No,
You're in thousands of foot of water.
Yeah, once we're out there, we're fishing like it started off at like 1,600 feet, and then anywhere you go to like 2,400 feet. The whole time, with slow trolling fly line, so with no weight, just a hook with your light bait, and then just let out like a couple 100 foot of line, slowly troll. So your bait's on top of the water pretty much. It's just a rod attached with a leader and tied to a hook, and then you just let it out. Put your bait on it, and then let it out, and then just slowly troll. Yeah, because there's different way to fish. There's fly line, there's dropper, or pelagic. The tunas and Dorados and whatever right there. What you use most of the time, you just use fly line.
We did the same thing in Hawaii. In fact, I hooked a marlin in Hawaii. He jerked me off my feet twice in the boat. Like jerked me off my feet. Had to drag a little too tight. We weren't expecting to hook a marlin, and it wasn't that big of a fish. I mean, it did its tail walk all the way across in front of us, and I had went from a full reel of line to almost no line just in an instant. But we were trying to get the boat turned and get in the front of the boat, and he was pulling on me so hard. I tripped once over somebody, and then Bobby P, Bobby Pereira, He was with
Yeah.
us. He was with me. I tripped over him, and he's trying to hand me, and they're trying to get things out of the way, and I tripped again, and it was a shit show. Then we had braid on that rod, which was probably a mistake, and it wasn't a huge. Like I said, we weren't expecting to hook a marlin. We didn't really have the right gear for it. It ended up pulling on the line hard enough. The line was loose enough down at the bottom of the reel, towards the bottom of the reel, that the line actually buried. And when it buried, it just, when it went off, it sounded like a gun, just kapow. And it took probably 3/4 of the line off that reel, just in a flipping flash. The whole incident for me took place and lasted about 15 seconds. It was just chaotic, but I can't imagine on the kayak. You said you guys go out there, going out like 10 miles or whatever, and then this thing pulled you another 11 miles.
Yeah. So when we got out there, right? So we got out to the canyon, and I brought all these heavy gears, with Shimano Talica, 16 20 with a big 80-pound line, 100-pound lines, right? We were trolling for a good 2 hours with nothing. We didn't see no sign of life, no sign of fish or anything like that. No bird activity. It was about like 9:45, right? So I'm like, you know what? Let me swap out my gears to the lighter setup. So this setup is pretty light. It's more for Dorado or something like that. It's a 40-pound rod. It's a small. I have a little small Saltia 20 HA on it. So I got 50-pound test with 30-pound top shot. I put a new bait on and then tossed it out there. I was pedaling for maybe less than 10 minutes, and next thing you know, my rod went bendo right after that, and then I just heard the flash, and right away I knew what it was already.
So this thing takes off on you, got 30-pound test. Obviously, you're not horsing it, and you just start following it around.
Yeah, so right when I heard the splash, I turned around. It was just ripping line. Like you said, my line went down from like 4 to 3, like to a quarter left. That was when he was jumping out like 8 times. So I was pedaling, chasing after it. As soon as I got the line back almost to the top, that's when the fight really began. It started to tow me out.
Besides when it jumped, how long did it take before you actually got to see it?
Right when it started jumping, and then I turned and I saw there was a marlin. So I radioed, and then Tommy and Nasco, my two buddies, they were there. Luckily, Tommy was able to capture when it was jumping on his camera phone.
You have some pretty cool pictures on Facebook, man. That's pretty awesome stuff.
Without them, this all would just be a fish story, So I'm glad that they stood by my side and pedal along with me all the way out there,
Well, gosh, all that time, doing that kind of stuff, man, safety, you're a long ways offshore. The horizon's 9.3 miles away from flat on the water surface. So I don't know if you can see land anymore or not, but that's one circle if you can't. And if you ain't got GPS or something, or somebody that, is out there to help you, you'd be lost. And having company is a big deal.
Yeah. And going on these trips, I always plan ahead too, make sure I have all my safety stuff, like flare guns, rope, extra radio, extra battery for my fish finder, so if anything, I could just swap the battery out, because I depend on my fish finder to get back for navigation.
Right.
For
GPS.
the GPS.
Yeah, absolutely. So do I. That thing's key to everything. I mean, a little compass is always nice. You can take a compass and take a heading when you leave and know that the opposite of that is land, but it'll get you back to land, but it won't get you back to where you left from. But I guess it'll get you close, at least to the bank. You do this a couple times a year, or you just once a year? That's a long pedal.
Well, my plan is just one time a year. It depends on how it is, it depends on what I see when I'm out there, like example, last weekend I went and I hooked that marlin, right? So with the water warming up, I'm planning to go again, in a couple of weeks, in August 24th. So
you're taking a ton of water and all kinds of food and stuff.
No, you know what? For water and food, our plan was to fish until 1 o'clock only.
And then come back.
Yeah, to come back. Because usually most of the time, if we hook up, we'll hook up around 9 to 10 right there. If it's tuna, it don't take you too long to land it. Our plan was to come back in 1. So each of us have maybe about 4 or 5 waters.
Oh.
Some snack here and there only.
If you end up hooking a 100-pound tuna and getting it in, that's probably just about all in the kayak you want, huh?
Yeah.
On the tuna thing, do you guys have fish bags? You got ice in them? Or are you bleeding the fish out? How are you getting that tuna to get cold?
Yeah, we do have ice in our kill bag. It's just a bag, not too much, because you can only put so much in there. Those bags are good for 30-pound tuna only. If there's anything bigger than that, then it won't fit in there. You're just going to have to tie a rope and throw it in your kayak or drag it,
Gosh, dragging it. That would be terrible back all the way back. That's like a giant water break. It just, when I'm walleye fishing and stuff, and I'm going up and down the river everywhere because you do drifts, and then you go back up river and you do another you'll troll or you do jig or do something. Every time you're trying to move, you got like one walleye over. You think, man, I feel like I'm going slower, and it's not so bad. You don't pay attention to it, but you get like 4 or 5, and then you realize, holy cow, I'm going really slow, and you be pedaling and then pull up your fish. And you can feel the kayak literally lunge forward, almost set you back in your seat, and you're like, "Holy cow!" I can only imagine you guys don't have so you're not too worried about. I guess what I'm asking is, I'd be, especially with a tuna, I'd be real worried it was going to get like too hot, go bad on me.
If it's a big tuna, like I say, the plan is just to get it and come back in.
Right.
That's what it is. There's nothing you can do. Besides that, since you're on a kayak.
Right. 6 to 10 miles, you said you're going offshore? 6 miles ain't too bad. I've done that. I've not been 10 miles offshore on my kayak, not pedaling on my own. I mean, I've done plenty more than that in a day. I've pedaled way further and fried my legs, but I've never pointed the boat west and just kept on going. Up here, we'll fish offshore 3 to 5 is pretty regular. And that gets us out to the good reefs. It gets us out to the good salmon grounds. It'll also get us to the good halibut grounds. It'll get us to those better waters, the stuff that's a little bit deeper. We have rules here, at least in Washington. Oregon, I don't think Oregon has the same rule. I'm not sure. But in Washington, you're not allowed to fish past 120 foot. So when there's a halibut closure, you can't fish past 120 feet. And some places, you may have to go 2 or 3 miles to see 120 feet. And then you get like on the sound side or the straight side of Nia Bay, which is where I'll be this weekend. You only have to go a quarter mile and you're in 200 foot of water because it's vertical. So those places you don't go very fast. So we got a lot of nice big lingcod. They get a lot of nice big halibut here. A lot of the same species you have. As far as any black sea bass, you guys got blues and deacons and chinas and yellow eye and all that, but you guys also have like, what do they call them? Sheep's head or something? The red and black ones?
Yeah, sheephead.
Sheep's head. And you have calico bass, and you have the California halibut, and a lot of different fish than we do. I'd like to get down there sometime and catch some of those. I want to go down and fish a couple of those events you guys got down there, especially if the USA kayak fishing team opens them up to being qualified. I want to go down and do that. That would be a blast. Plus, I talked to several of you guys outside of the ORC, Oregon Rockfish Classic. I haven't really. Junior. I see Junior and Len. I've seen them several times. They've been up fishing sturgeon or fishing salmon with Bobby here just not too long ago. It sounds like they're going to come back again as soon as it gets better. It's been kind of a slow year for the salmon. When I say slow, I don't mean like slow fishing. It's been a little slow fishing. We've caught some nice fish. I've caught a couple of dandies already, but the fish just aren't here yet. And normally they're already here. Barrier at the mouth of the Columbia is just holding the fish off. So same thing it did with the sockeye. People started getting worried about the sockeye going up the Okanagan River because that thermal barrow was stopping the fish, and the fish are all down in the Columbia turning, and they still have to get up the river to get to their spawning ground. When you guys are out there, how often do you get into the Dorado and stuff?
Well, the past 4 years we've been out there, we haven't seen any yet. But there's report that they're always there. I mean, they could be there today, and then we'll go out tomorrow. They're not there.
Right.
So we haven't gotten to any yet, but boaters have.
The one thing I always find the Dorados on that I'm always looking for when I was out there, when I was down in the Gulf all the time fishing, the one things I always saw Dorado on was anytime there was something floating in the water.
Yeah, kelp patty.
Yeah, either sargasso seaweed or, like you said, kelp patties, or like, I remember one time we found a pallet floating, and oh my gosh, there was so many different kinds of fish underneath one silly little thing. And, oh man, the Dorado were just making these giant circles around it. It was so much fun. Again, in Hawaii this year, that's what we found a clump of netting there wasn't much there. There was all these triggerfish around it, and then the Dorados were going all around it. I started ripping a jig across the top of the water. I just took a metal jig, a Major Craft, 100-gram Major Craft jig, a pink and silver glow, and pitched across there and just reeled it in as fast as I could, just jerking on it, and man, they destroyed that thing. Smoked that. It was a lot of fun. Shortly after, I lost my jig, and that was the only one I had, and we're in there trying to do it with slow pitch jigs. It didn't work the same. You guys are just dragging bait? That's it? When you're out there, are you trying to jig at all? Or you seeing fish on your graph at all when you're out there? Or is it just emptiness, desert?
No, you'll mark big bait ball, and you will mark the tuna too. If they're there, you'll mark them.
Are you marking them on like down 500-600 feet, or are they usually closer to the
No,
surface?
no, they're all on top, like in the 30-foot column.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're all with the bait fish, you know. So that's how we were marking in 2021.
All right. Do you guys use metal jigs at all? Speed jig, any of that
Um,
stuff?
I mean, we have additional rods where we tie on like jig and stuff like that, you know, a popper just in case the foamers, you know, stuff like that. But so far, you know, we've been lucky with just trolling the fly line, the live sardine. You know, it's been the most effective.
Right. How big are your sardines?
They're about like maybe 6 to 7 inch long.
Those are good size then. Okay.
Yep, just nose hook, and then like I say, just let line out about like 200 foot or 250, something like that. You know, or 100 yards is fine. You know, the longer the better, and
Right.
just slow troll.
That's the same thing we were doing. It kind of watch the rod once in a while. You can tell when your bait gets a little bit nervous that maybe something's watching it. But
Mhm.
how big do you think that fish was, that marlin that you had on?
Um, I can't say how much it weighed, but it was as long as my Hobie Outback.
Which we know is 12 feet. So a
Yeah,
12-foot long marlin, that's got to be 2 foot from top to bottom and a foot across the thickness, maybe, you think? So what, 400?
250, 300, something like that. You know.
Yeah, that's what the one that when I was with Brandon, then when we hooked this year, that's what he was saying. He's probably figure a 300 pounder, two to 300 pounds too.
Yeah, it might be 300 too, because it was pretty big. You know, the tail was like at least 3 foot wide. You know, so I mean, there was that time where I had it right next to my kayak, and it was just too damn big.
Right, it was a big fish. So you landed it. You had it up to the boat. Did you get your hook out, or did it just break off eventually?
You know, to say I landed it, you know, I didn't gaff it. I didn't kill it.
But that's
You
still
know,
that's a
but
landing. In the sport fishery world, all they got to do is touch the
yeah,
leader, and that fish is still 15 feet away from them.
yeah, that's true.
So I would consider that a landing.
Yeah, you know, we made the decision to cut it because we're like, you know what, per tournament rules, right, for Marlin, if you get it to by the leader, that's considered landing it, right?
Yeah, that's
So
a catch. That's a
it was
catch.
then we made a wide decision that, well, you know, we're not gonna gaff it. We're just gonna cut the line, let it go, you know, because this time when I got to my kayak, it was like 2, 3 foot away only, you know.
Right. Dude, that's a catch,
Yeah.
man. You caught that thing. You didn't. You
Yeah.
caught that thing. I would
Mhm.
100%. You caught that thing. That's awesome.
Mhm.
It's too bad you couldn't. I know it's hard with a handful of fish to pull. I'm sure that your legs and your arms, I'm sure you were exhausted. You had to. How long you had that thing on, you think, for?
Right when I hooked it was at like 10 o'clock, and then as it was dragging me out. Every now and then, Tommy will tell me, "Key, you're 1 hour in." The time went by so fast, and he'll be like, "Key, you're 2 hours in," you know. Nasco was to my left, and he was constantly telling me, "Okay, where you got dragged out 4 miles already, you know, and then 5 miles." You know, he was constantly telling me, you know. So at the same time, when I'm finding the fish, they're both on my side, letting me know how everything's going, you know, stuff like that. I couldn't do much, you know, but just put the rod using my left knee at leverage, you know, and just holding the rod right there, you know, the whole time.
So you could say that you could definitely say it was some teamwork then, for sure.
No, oh yeah, it was the teamwork, you know, with him by my side, you know, and with that fish towing me, what, 5.5 hours, 5.5 hours,
5.5 hours.
5.5 hours,
Holy cow.
11 miles out. Yeah,
5.5 hours. So you're already going what 2.5 hour pedal, you said, to get out to where you start
yeah.
fishing anyway. So now he's towed you another 5.5. Did you get in before dark?
When I got bit, we were what? I think we were like 8.5 mile out. That's when I got bit, and it told me 5.5 hours, 11 mile out. So when we got out there, it was like 20.1 miles total. That was when the fish it wouldn't go no more. It was just like doing the death roll, you know, circling below me. That was when I was able to gain all the line and got it up to the kayak multiple times. You know, we had a gaff ready. We just until we saw it, and then we just like, oh no, we're not gonna gaff it. You know,
Knowing that it was just too big to be able to deal with and the work that it would have caused you guys. Heck, you'd have had to chunk that thing up and put pieces in each person's kayak to get it back, I think.
there was no way we were gonna pull that up onto my kayak or anyone else's kayak if we were to gaff it. It was along the kayak, you know, so there's no way that you're gonna be pedaling comfortably, you know, with being 20 miles out. When we decided to cut the line, it was at 4:15.
Holy smokes. So you got like 4 hours of daylight left, right? 4.5 hours
Yeah,
of daylight
yeah,
left?
Mhm. That was the main reason why. So we were prepared. I had my flare guns. Like I said, extra VHF radio, batteries for my fish finder.
Right.
The only thing was that everyone got to the boat launch and launch out ready, so I got it there late, like maybe 10 minutes late. Unloaded everything, and I forgot my headlamp, my flashlight in the car. Yeah, so that was when at 4:15 when I was talking to the guy, going, you know what, we're gonna cut it because we don't have much time left, to get back. The GPS was telling us it's gonna take us 10 hours to get back. Yeah. It was 4:15, and the GPS is going to take us 10 hours to get back.
Holy smokes, man! You're like, oh, I gotta call the wife and tell her I'm not making it to dinner. Did it take 10 hours to get back?
We heard after we cut the Marlin off, we let it go. After NASCO got all the video shots and stuff like that, so
Right.
we started pedaling back. As fast as we can. It was what 2.5, almost 3 hours in, and we were like almost 7 o'clock. Sun was almost coming down. We barely gained 5 miles. Yeah,
holy cow! So you had a long ways to go still.
Yeah, so we still had 15 miles out. We were still 15 miles out. I talked to the guy. They go, you know what? Only NASCO had his headlamp on. My kayak had a flag with the lights on, but that's about it. Sun going down fast. If they want, then I'll call one of my buddies from Orange County to drive down with the boat to come in and assist us. So you could just see it in their face. They straight a smile. They had the biggest smile. So yeah. So my phone, during the whole time my phone was dead. So I had Tommy contacting one of my other friends, on Facebook. Got my buddy Duke phone number, and then he made the call. I told him what to tell him, and sure enough, right when he sent the location, Duke saw where we were at. He's like, "Wow, you guys are 15 miles out." So we're like, "Yeah, we're that far out." So he dropped everything, loaded his boat, came down to the Dana Point Harbor. That took about maybe an hour and a half or so, and then the whole time we were pedaling, we continued pedaling.
Right.
We sent him the GPS. We sent him the GPS coordinate. So right when he launched, he shot straight out there, and it took him like an hour and a half going full speed to get up to us.
Holy smokes, man!
When he got out to us, it was like 10 o'clock.
Oh, she was a long one then. It was.
Yeah. We pedaled for a good 6.5 hours already. Wow. And we got to the 10-mile mark.
You had to be tired. Had to be tired. That's all part of the adventure, though, man. That's part of the story. That's part of the that's part of the deal. But it also, it just also proves your point as far as planning and making sure you got your stuff together. And I mean, this isn't something that a beginner is going to want to get out there and go do, because you'll just end up killing yourself. It'd be so fun to go do something like that. But you'd have to be I feel like you'd have to be in pretty good shape. I mean, I have a motor on my back of my Pro Angler. I have an Outback and a Pro Angler. I just got my second hip replaced this year, but I'm totally golden. Like, I feel so much better with my hips replaced. Than I can move and walk, and I don't have a problem pedaling or anything like that. But I got to admit, man, I had a buddy, Brad Hull, loan me the motor when I could, before my first surgery. I couldn't hardly walk. Couldn't hardly get in the kayak. And we were at the Walleye Social, and he brought a motor up. And we put it on the back of my boat, and I fished out of that. And then the day after the Walleye Social, I went in and got my hip replaced. And then a few months went on, and I healed up, and I continued to use the motor. And then it just kind of got lazy because it dawned on me. I was like, man, this thing really opens up some extra things. I could go a little further, do other stuff. I mean, yeah. I've taken that. I have a NK 180 Pro with a Z Pro 65 amp hour battery, and I have been. I think the furthest I've gone is 35 miles in a day, and I still had over 50% of my battery, and that was actually with the 180, not the 180 Pro. So the 180 Pro uses less wattage. So it's a lot more efficient. It's also made for trolling and stuff. I used that the last time I went out halibut fishing, which made the old trip on the legs quite a bit easier. Usually the ocean where you guys are at, you get down there in Southern California, is it pretty flat, or you get a lot of big rollers?
No, Dana Point, it's a harbor, so when you launch out, it's flat, like I said, it all depends on condition. So far we've been lucky, and every morning when we launch, it's flat. It's like straight glass, so.
Even if
Yeah,
ours is flat here, I mean, once in a while it'll be flat, but like you won't have any wind waves, but you'll have swells, you know,
mhm.
and maybe they'll be 2 or 3 foot, which is, you know, pretty flat for here. But maybe I fished in 10 to 12 foot swells, but no wind waves at all. You're just up and down and up and down, and that gets tiring because you got to watch. You got to have your head on a swivel. You don't have your boat sideways to the wave because they have flat faces on them, and you'll end up upside down if you're not careful because one of those flat faces catches you. Still, we go out and have a lot of fun doing that stuff. I can't even imagine being able to go out and do what you guys get to do. Do you ever go and get a chase like the yellowtail and the white bass? What do they call them? Sea bass or whatever they call them?
Yeah, white sea bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go down to La Jolla for that. They don't really have that around Dana Point area. I mean, it's very scarce. I mean, you might have one pass by here and there, get lucky, but if to target yellowtail and stuff like that, you'll have to go down to La Jolla.
La Jolla is here in California.
La Jolla, yeah, it's by San Diego.
Okay, so not because you're in San Diego, right?
No, I'm in Riverside.
Okay, and that's still
So from here to Dana Point about an hour, and then from here to La Jolla, San Diego is about an hour and a half for me. I believe it was 2021 or something when we came up, or 22 that we came up for the Oregon Rockfish Classic.
Yeah,
and I drove all the way from down here.
Wow, that's a drive, and the wind kind of beat our tails. You guys went out. I remember you guys went out, fished for quite a while, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you? Your crew did.
Yeah, we went out to Depot Bay. We pre-fished, try to kind of figure out the spot, the area, because it's our first time there.
Right.
And we actually caught some really nice fish, but just that on tournament day, it wasn't like the same like how pre-fish was,
Dude, I took off. There's that reef. You know where the reef is in Depot. You go straight out of Depot Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much everybody hangs north, and that reef runs all along there for a couple of miles. And there's another little cove you can launch at, which is where me and my friend Don Salisbury and several of the other guys were launching right there. Mark Vuri was there. We all go out. We get out through this little bay, and you think, oh, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. We get out there, it's white capping. And well, me and Don Salisbury we're together. We're hanging together. Wave comes through. First wave, they were close together, they were like a second apart. Two big waves, just bam, bam. And I was like, holy smokes. And I get there, well, it almost flipped Don in his Revo. Dang near got him. He goes, I don't want to do too much of that. It'll be out of here. And man, right as soon as he said that, another couple of 4 and 5 foot whitecaps come over on top of us. One just rolled right on top of me. And Don, I didn't get to see what happened to him because I was too busy trying to keep myself upright and push through the wave. Don goes, that's it, I'm out. So I'm like, okay, I'm out too. So we hit it back. Well, Robert had just passed us, him and Anthony Stickle. And Anthony, he went on out. Robert was like, screw this, I'm going in. So it was just it was too much on that day. We didn't even fish. Casey Boyles and Zach Dennis, they went out and went to the right. As you go out, I believe it was to the right. There's a little buoy there, a pile there, and they just fished right there. And that's where Zach caught those big lingcod that he won with, if you remember.
Yeah, those 40s. Yeah, he brought those in. Those are pretty nice ones.
Yeah, those were good ones. We get some good ones up at Nia Bay. You'll get some that are 45 to 50 inches once in a while. Some good ones, big old water dragons, I like to call them. Their heads are so big you can't touch either side of them with your hand. It's a lot of fun. It'd be a ton of fun to fish the different varieties that you guys have down there. Now, let's just touch on this real quick. I asked you briefly over the Facebook Messenger. I was like, what about the sharks? And you're like, oh, they're no big deal. You just stay in a group. So do you guys see very many other great whites down there? Because that's the thing for all of us guys up here is the great whites down there. And you guys are like around them all the time. So you're like, eh. And we're like, holy crap, there's great whites down there.
Okay, so out of Southern California area, there's not many great white sharks. I mean, you'll see one here and there, but I haven't seen any big ones like how I've seen on the Central Coast. The Central Coast, I've seen some massive one. I mean, I'm talking about maybe 15 footers.
While you're in your kayak.
Yeah. So what they'll just come and circle right below you, and I guess they just come and look at you and they just take off. I mean, because most of the time we're in groups, so they just come and look and they just take off. We never had any encounter where they try to bump a kayak or anything like that before.
You don't poop a little?
No, not really. I mean, most of the time, I noticed that all the shark attacks that happen is like solo kayakers,
Right, right, and that makes
lone kayak.
sense. That makes sense
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, that makes sense. I saw one of the videos. I'm sure you know who Greg Blanchard is, the bass fishing guy. Anyways, he was down there. I believe it was at the Cove up north from you, and him and Mike Ensign and them, they were out there, and Greg has a video where he's sitting there in his boat and he's fishing, and all of a sudden you just see a swirl when you see it, and he just, oh my God, what was that, a whale? And he takes off and pedals off, and you could hear him, I think that was a shark. I don't know what that was. I think that was a shark. And Mike's like, it's no big deal. He's not gonna do nothing. You know, he's like, blah, blah, no big deal. And then he goes, just come over here. And so they ended up getting right together. Well, in Greg's video, it was a great white, and it literally did a pass. Like the boat was here, and it just went like that, like quickly, like it turned at the last second. It went, oh, that's not something I want to eat. So,
Yeah.
and we've even heard stories here that, and you could tell me if this is true or not. We've heard stories here that you guys will put pool noodles in your kayaks. So if you do get bit, it stays afloat. Is that true?
Some do, but I like to put gear and I need that important stuff into my hole.
Right.
That I might need out in the water, you know, for any type of emergency and stuff like that. So I don't put any pool noodles in there.
No.
Some people do though.
Because I know that this year I've seen one person was out there. He had a motor on his kayak in NK 180, and a shark bit it. And then, you know, the old yum yellow stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a couple of posts where guys with the yellow kayaks have gotten bit, or mouthed rather, not like, you know, attacked, but shark will grab it and then just let go. When you know that's my outback is the yum yellow. So
I've heard that a lot. You know, a lot of people, a lot of the attack. It is the papaya outback. You know, papaya kayak.
Colors, yeah, that's the papaya. Yeah.
Yep. Maybe it's the colors. It attracts them. I don't know. Maybe. Not sure what's going on.
Where I work with, they make us wear fluorescent orange. Some guys will wear the fluorescent green or almost a yellow. And oddly enough, the bees will hammer the yellow, the chartreuse. The sweat bees, they'll bite the crap out of you through them. But you got orange on, they'll leave you alone. Maybe it's something to do with that color. I don't know, but yeah, it makes, you know, weird stuff. So, well, shoot, man, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. And if you don't mind, as you post photos and stuff, I'd love to be able to catch up with you and talk to you again about some of your adventures and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm fine. You know, I'm fine. You know, whatever you need, just let me know. And we'll get on it with it.
This is awesome. Yeah, man. The story of the Marlin, dude, is just something that you're on a list of very few people. You know, you're not out there in Las Buces and doing it. You're doing it here on our side of the state. And that's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you know one or two others, right? Or no? That have Marlin. This is not your first one, right? This is not your first one either.
This is actually my second one. Last year I hooked one too. But that one, I think the one from last year was a lot bigger. It did like maybe 4 or 5 jump, and then I was able to get on video too. I'm like, you know, if I don't record this, no one's gonna believe me, you know, stuff like that. So I got it on video, and then for about like 15 seconds, so I shut off the video, and then I fought it for like 15 minutes only, and then it broke me off.
Were you on bigger stuff or the 30-pound test again?
No, it's the same small rod, lighter rod that I use. I don't know why, man. They love that rod.
They must be something about bigger gear, or they can see it or something, huh? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And besides that, you know, after, you know, I started posting all the photos and videos and stuff like that. So I learned that one other person, Jim Salmon, I'm sure you know who it is. He's like pioneer of kayak fishing. Back in the 90s, he hooked a Marlin by La Jolla, and it towed him out 8 or 9 miles too. You know, so I'm not sure if he got any photos back then and stuff like that.
Did he get it to the kayak?
I don't know. I didn't ask. That's what I was told, that he was the other person that hooked into a Marlin on the California coast.
Well, you're definitely on a short list then. That's awesome, man. That's freaking awesome. You know, it's too bad you couldn't have I know it's hard, like I was trying to say earlier, I know it's hard when you're tired, you're exhausted, you got this fish in your hand, you're trying to focus on things, keeping your rod to the front, you know, because you don't want to fucking give the leverage to the fish and have them flip you and all this other stuff. But it's too bad you didn't have them up there. Your phone was dead, but too bad you couldn't get you a couple of photos or something.
You know, as a kayak fisherman, you know, what we want is we want the fish with us on the kayak, right?
Yeah.
Something to show for you. That's the best photo right there, right?
Yes, yeah.
That's what I wanted. Like I say, after seeing the caliber of the fish, I'm like, there's no way, you know, we're going to gaff it and You know, I mean, we could have got the photo, but there's no way we're gonna bring that back home 20 miles out. You know.
Yeah, once you'd have gaffed it, that's it. You gotta take care of it at that point. And
Yeah.
you made the right call. You know, as kayak anglers, we're not gluttons. We respect what we have. We like, we want to take care of what we have because we enjoy doing what we do. So there's no point in being greedy, and that's being a great sportsman right there, which is what we need more of. Good ambassadors for the sport. I tell everybody all the time I try to be the best ambassador for my sport that I can be through seminars and different things that I get to do. I've gotten to write some articles for Kayak Angler magazine and stuff, and now trying to do this and just being the best ambassador that I can to get the word out about the kayak angling. It's one of the fastest growing sports in the fishing industry. Over there where you guys are, it's super popular on the west side of the state. Here, even on the west side of Oregon, it is pretty popular. But on the east side where I live, on the east side of Washington, east side of Oregon, a lot of these people still look at us like, what in the heck? When I first started fishing out of kayak full time about 10 years ago, dude, I would get out here. I'd be the only guy out there in the middle of winter, walleye fishing. It's cold as hell out. And I'd hear, look at that fucking idiot from a boat over there. Or I'd go, you'd hear, oh, that dumb shit. Or you'd hear, where the fuck did that dummy launch from? Or, all kinds of stuff. And you never say anything. I had the sheriff roll me one time. He's like, I'm fishing. He's like 10 feet away from me. And he's just cruising by in his sled. And he's just looking at me. And I'm like, everything all right, man? He goes, just checking you out. Making sure you're okay. I go, you sink your boat, I'll sink mine. Well, let's see who gets to the bank. And I got a dry suit on, a PFD on. I got everything on, and you ain't got nothing on.
Right.
And then what happens out here is you'll get the occasional kayaker that doesn't want to wear a PFD or doesn't do something, gets himself in a situation where they don't want to be in. And they might not be anglers. They might just be people in a kayak, and they end up perishing. Then we're all dumbasses. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It paints that paintbrush has got a huge broad stroke, and it paints us all idiots trying to get people to put their PFD on and do all that stuff. One of the things that I've done is I am a ex-recovery diver. I've spent 6 years, looking for people on the bottom of lakes and rivers and different things so that we could bring them back to their family, because mishaps happened. Things from jumping off of boats to, people drowning, just you wouldn't think anything was wrong, and they just go out, fluke thing, they get a teaspoon or whatever of water in their lungs, and they just sink to the bottom. I mean, it's just some of the craziest stuff. I have a different appreciation for safety and wearing your PFD and taking care of stuff and doing what you guys do and planning, making sure you got your stuff squared away. I mean, you forgot your lights, but I could see where that could be a thing. You still had backup. You had your friend come and get you, which with another 15 miles to go, holy smokes, I would have been, heck yeah, bring the helicopter. I don't care.
It's good to have a good friend like that, that's willing to drop everything and come and get you. I mean, it wasn't like a emergency, it's more like
do us a favor.
You know?
Yeah, it's just an assist. Yeah,
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing you weren't in a tournament. You'd have been DQ'd, but I get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Once the sun went down, that's when the water started getting choppy too. We got lucky. He got out there and he was able to guide us back into the marina. And it took us about another almost 2 hours to get back into.
Yeah, that air cools down at night and it makes the winds blow,
Oh yeah, it got chilly.
Yeah, the temperatures of the water, the temperatures of of land. You got two winds going different directions. It causes a wind. So you could absolutely hear. We'll get up in the morning and it'll be no wind waves, no nothing. It'd be really nice. But about 11 o'clock in the morning, you better be ready to get off the water, because that's when the wind's going to come. As soon as the land really starts to warm up and it starts to pull that wind. And then every afternoon here, we can count on a pretty good, 10 to 15 mile an hour breeze, sometimes 20. But then the next morning it'll be, super nice again. So we'll be at the beach at daylight, seeing what the surf's doing and counting sets and getting ready to bust through the surf and go out. Pacific City is one of the places that I love to go to, and it's really not that far. If you guys ever come back up this way again, Depot Bay or anything, well, you'll have a pile of us with you, because you guys come up. We're all going to be a big old batch of people come fish with you guys. But PC is amazing. You guys are all used to breaking through surfs. I see some pretty gnarly pictures from you guys going through the surf. Shit that I'm like nervous about doing, and we go through surf all the time. But so this surf here shouldn't be any problem for you. I've seen some, I don't know if it's at the Cove or where you guys do it. I know it's north. Man, I've seen the waves break on the beach, which is what they do at PC. There's no, like at Hobuck where we go through them, the waves break offshore probably 50, 60 yards. So you've got a chance once you get through them, you can go. At PC, the waves break on the beach. So that wave will pick you up and just body slam you in the sand. Just kapow. Some of the photos I've seen of some of your guys doing that very thing does not look pleasant at all. Big waves. I see guys crashing and people run down there on the beach as fast as they can and get their stuff pulled in. I think there's a photo somewhere in the Fresh and Salty page where a guy's literally riding the top of the wave. I'm sure he had to eat. I'm sure he ate shit just afterwards, but somebody caught him on the crest, like in a photo.
No, that guy with the green papaya, he actually made it.
Did he really?
That's over by Lyman State Park. You know, a Big Sur area, Central Coast. You know, so it's called Big Sur for a reason. You know,
right.
Humongous. You know, so you rarely go out there and have a nice day. I mean, 1 out of 10 times it'll be nice, but most of the time you gotta go against those those breakers.
So you're counting your sets and full send, man. No hesitation. That's the biggest thing that'll get you dumped. Hesitate.
Yeah.
Don't stay straight, and you're gonna eat some major shit.
A lot have to do with timing. You know,
right?
Just, don't rush it, and just watch the swell, the wave, how it comes, and just read it. And once you know how to read it, then you'll make it out easily. Coming in, the same thing.
That's what we do. Same thing. We'll stand there on the beach, look at the waves. We'll count the sets. We'll check them out, and you'll see every 6 waves or 7 waves or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's a lull for 10 seconds. And then they all come back in, but they're like 2 seconds apart. You're close, 3 seconds apart. And then you'll get your 5 or 6 or 7, whatever it is, and then you'll have a lull again. And if you could take off and you can get through that, then the next set will just be rollers. It won't be breakers. Sometimes the breakers come in on you, and you just power through them. A lot of fun. Coming in's a little different because you can only see the back of them. You try to count the sets and then go as fast as you can and hope to God you don't eat too much crap. But it's I've been pretty lucky, been pretty fortunate. I go quite a bit over here at the coast. One of the last 4 or 5 years I haven't dumped yet. So the first year I was trying to go through the surf and stuff. Oh my God, dude, I got my ass handed to me so many times. But that's how you learn. That's how you learn. I mean, I remember one day we went out, it was ankle slappers, literal ankle slappers. And we came back in, you're looking at the back of the waves, and I see this black object go across the wave. I'm like, what is that? And the guy was Rich. He goes, I don't know what that was. And all of a sudden you see a black dot go like this. And I'm like, what is that? And the next thing you know, you see a surfboard flying through the air. I was like, holy crap, dude, those are surfers. And we're on the backside of these giant waves. And he goes, okay, no big deal. What we're going to do is we'll just bail off the kayak because we're in pro anglers. Grab the back of the kayak, and then you just kick forward and ride the wave in, right? With your kayak in front of you. And that usually works. Well, I was like, okay. And remember, this is the first time I'd been through these kind of waves. And I go, so I'm looking for Michael. So when did we get off the kayak? And all of a sudden, the wave, we're next to each other side by side, and a wave comes in, picks me up. Rich is off the end of it, so it just goes under him, picks me up, and away I go. I take off. I'm going through this thing, and I'm like, don't know what I'm doing, staring my kayak into this deal, and I've got a 14-foot pro angler, and the tip of it's starting to dig.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yep, it was a shit show. I lost all my shit. Well, not all of it, but a lot of my shit. We got it back. The next morning, Rich was out there at 2 o'clock in the morning at low tide, picking up my gear, but it busted the rudder on my boat. It broke, a whole bunch of shit. I fixed it all, but that's what I learned. You try to go launch through the nursery. That's what we call the nursery, smaller waves. Still fun, though. Well, hey, Kei, thank you very much for talking to me. Like I said, I'd love to be able to, watch your adventures on Facebook and then just reach out to you once in a while. See if you're interested to talk about something. I'm going to start watching some of the other guys too and see if they'd be interested in doing that. Again, thank you for sitting down and talking with me, man. It was enjoyable, truly enjoyable. I really appreciate your time. I'm grateful for it. And an amazing story, an amazing adventure. And that's, for me, that's something I always strive for. The best adventure I can have, because in the end, we don't want to say, man, I wish I did. We just want to go, I remember when,
Yeah.
Live the life. So thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bait and Banter Podcast. Hey, give us a like, give us a follow, and check us out on all your favorite platforms for your podcasts. All right, guys. Until next time, tie lines.